I'm Mellem, and you're watching Transmission on Bent TV. I'm here with Ernest Price. So, Ernest, I know that you're familiar with Transmission.
I have been here before, yes. I was on in 2014 talking a bit about my experience coming out at work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a high school teacher in the western suburbs of Melbourne, and I transitioned both socially and medically at work whilst remaining at the same school, remaining with the same cohorts of students. I was actually what they call a year level coordinator at the time, so I was responsible for about 250 year 10 students. So I stood up on the first day of the year and told them that I was transgender and that I'd changed my name and that I was about to commence taking testosterone, and we went from there.
Wow. So I'm really curious as to how did the staff and the students handle you coming out?
Well, interesting, as you can probably imagine, it was a bit of a mixed bag. A lot of the time when people don't work with teenagers, the sort of stereotype prevails that teenagers are going to be, the judgmental ones. Actually, most of them were great. I gave them permission to ask questions as long as they were respectful of some boundaries that I set up. And they're curious, but they're also pretty open-minded generally. So they were fine on the whole. A couple of kids who said, some problematic stuff, that it was the other students who shut them down. And I was lucky enough to have a couple of really brave students who transitioned prior to me commencing my transition. So they'd sort of set that up. The staff was a little bit more of a mixed bag. I guess people are a little more sometimes set in their ways the older that they get. And I faced, a few challenges in that workplace. I guess sitting here in, 3 years on, 4 years on from going through that process, I think that I really tried to push through and take on a lot of stuff that was really difficult retrospectively. So, for example, getting asked to use the disabled bathroom rather than using the male bathroom, getting misgendered all the time. There was very much an attitude of, everyone's doing their best, as opposed to, putting those expectations on other people in the workplace.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were a member of the Safe Schools Coalition, so that was good. That helped set up a framework. But I only lasted another 2 years at that school. It really started to grind me down, that experience of, being misgendered daily, despite the fact that by that point, I was quite advanced in my medical transition. I wasn't being misgendered anywhere else. And having that legacy of that experience was really, quite difficult. So I changed schools. But what I found out is that my principal, in giving me a reference, and he gave me a good reference, apparently I'm pretty good at my job. That sounded a lot more boastful than I intended it to be, but he gave me a good reference, but he actually outed me in that reference. So what I was hoping would be at least a relatively clean start at the next school, where I could control my coming out process as opposed to having it done for me. I arrived and at least my bosses knew. I expected some of the kids to know because I didn't move too far away, but again, they've never been the problem. So yes, that was interesting to turn up and realise that I'd been outed and not to really have control of that process myself. And that's something I wrestle with.
Yeah, I guess also being someone who's already been on Transmission before, it's kind of hard to hide yourself now.
Kids do know how to Google. Hello, anyone from my school who is watching this. And I think that's something I really go backwards and forwards on. I think that personally, I think it's really important to be proud of who I am and what my history is, and I am proud to be out as a transgender person, but at the same time, it's tiring, it's exhausting, and I think, if you're in a community like a school and you're the trans teacher, you're the go-to person for any issues around sexuality or gender or just really anything that people think you might be able to do some wisdom, provide some wisdom about, which can be exhausting, and I think for me that's a real conundrum. But obviously I'm here and talking once again on something that will be on the internet, and the kids will undoubtedly Google. So I think I err on that side of, wanting to be out and wanting to be able to be a role model for kids. Especially at the moment, I think there's been so much controversy around the Safe Schools Coalition. We saw so many of the really great activists and educators who founded that program removed and absolutely destroyed and crucified in the media. And I think that's a really dangerous path for us to be going down as a state. You tend to think of these things as getting better and moving forward, but I think, for kids who watch that happen in the media, for them to be able to have educators and role models who are not going to shy away under that kind of pressure is really important.
So if you could say anything to any teachers out there about, like, if they are thinking about transition, is there anything you'd tell them right now?
Well, I didn't listen to the advice of my psychologist at the time. No, she was very clear that I was making some interesting life choices. Just find yourself a community. I think that if you can find a community, and obviously the broader LGBTIQ plus community can be that community, but it may even be a community within your school. If you can find allies who are going to stand up and help to advocate for you within that context, that's almost as important as having other people going through similar experiences in other contexts. And there are those people. They may not have the language yet or the ability to express it, but whether it's kids or staff members who really were there to support me and advocate for me, they're there. You just have to sort of reach out and take that plunge.
That's great. So yeah, allyship in schools is really an awesome thing.
Yeah.
I know. I wish I had a lot more of that when I was back at school. I'm not going to tell you when that was because that would give away.
Oh, me either.
It's been really great talking with you, Ernest, and I'm really curious as to how things are going to keep going for you in the future.
I'll be back on Transmission in 2020.
You've been watching Transmission on Vent TV. I'm Mellem, and this is Ernest, and thank you.